I'm going to show you how to make an X scraper agent that allows you to create a context profile from any X account that you choose. I'm going to execute this workflow right here, which is going to call a form and let me submit the handle that I want to scrape. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to my own profile, copy the handle, go back to that form and submit it. And that's going to kick off my workflow over here. And it's first going to call this get Twitter data node, which is going to use scrape creators, which is the API that I'm using to actually get the tweets. It's then going to send it over to this AI agent node that's going to go through every single tweet that I've made line by line. It's going to output it in a structured output parser that I choose. It's then going to split everything into its component elements, and then it's going to submit it into this Google Sheet right here, which is my Twitter template sheet, which is now filled out with my own data. So what it does is it gives you a template name, it gives you a hook rule, it gives you a body rule, it gives you a call to action rule, it gives you style tags, a character limit, example content, and an allocation out of, let's say, 100 tweets, how many should be in this format. And then you can see the actual profile. And then you can combine all this and create one JSON if you'd like to do that. But I like seeing them all in their separate component pieces. And that's going to create a complete context profile from any X account that I choose. I can go into X. I can do this for, another account. I can do it for the people that I find to be the most compelling, the people whose content I want to replicate. And it's going to let me do that without having to ask anybody's permission. I'm just going to use this scrape creators API key, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can do the exact same thing. So let's go back into n8n here, and we're going to break down how to create this workflow. So let's go into how we can actually create this node and use it for ourselves. So the first node in any n8n workflow is always going to be the trigger node. For my trigger node, I have an on form submission because I don't know what data I'm going to want to process until somebody actually sends that to me. So I'm going to create a form here. It's really easy to create a form. You just choose the on form submission node, and for your title, you can have whatever you want. I have x/Twitter URL. For the description, just put in the profile that you want. And the only thing that I request here is that you put in only the handle and not any other kind of data, right? So let's execute this. I'm not sure if it'll show on my screen, but what it does is it pops up a form that I can then use, and I can put in any handle that I want. So I can put in my handle here. I can put in, Dwayne Johnson. I can put in whoever I want. For this, let's put in Greg Eisenberg, because I know he has a really popular Twitter, and I'd like to copy his style. So let's just copy this. Let's go over to our form. Let's paste this in here, and then we can submit. When we submit that, it'll say form submitted, and we'll see the on form submission has a check next to it. We can go in here. We got the X handle, Greg Eisenberg, submitted at this time, form mode test. Okay. Now, this is the main node that's going to actually do all the work to scrape Greg's tweets and output them in a format that's usable for us. So we're going to create a custom node using the HTTP n8n node, and we're going to label it get Twitter data. So go ahead and change that to get Twitter data. And again, if you're going to download this, I'm going to have the download link down below. You can just plug and play this. You don't need to rename anything. All you're going to have to do is set up your own credentials. So here in authentication, you're going to want to do generic credential type. You're going to want to do header auth. And I already have a header auth account set up. If you don't have one set up, what you're going to need to do is have a name and value pair. And the way this is done in app.scrapecreators.com, this is where you're actually going to get your API key. And your API key will be here on this left section that says API keys. Scrape Creators gives you 100 free credits, so you can go in here and you can actually just play around with this however you want. Now, the way this is going to work and the way that you set this up for yourself is you go into this and you type in x-api-key. You would just copy that and you would put that here. And for your value, you would take your actual API key, and this is my API key. And I don't have any credits in here, so I hope nobody goes in here and steals my free 80 credits, but you would just go ahead and save that. Since I already have it set up, I am going to use the one that I already have set up, and we can just save that. Now, when you execute this step, when I execute this step, what's going to happen is it's going to output a ton of data, and it's not going to be really easy to see it in n8n because there's just going to be truly too much data. What we have to trust essentially is that it's going to actually be there in this output step. In this output step, we're just going to see rows and rows and rows and rows and rows of data. So it's going to be every one of Greg Eisenberg's tweets that he's made. We can actually do a test here in the playground. So if we want to do Greg Eisenberg, we can run that request and we can see what that response will actually look like. And we see that the response was received. We're going to see that, here we go, description, I run a portfolio of internet companies. It'll go through his profile and then, oh, it seems I have just scraped his profile. I haven't scraped his tweets. So what you want to do is you want to do user tweets. It'll get 100 of the most popular tweets from this person, which is exactly what we want because we want to extract a context profile based on their successful tweets, and we want to see how we can create a context profile in JSON using their tweets that we can then apply to our tweets. So I run the request for Greg Eisenberg. Response has been received. I just burned a few API credits, as you can see here. I think I had 84, so I burned 4 right now. So I have 80 more. Now here we can see the actual tweets, and we go through here. This is probably still some profile details. And we can see that the structure is a JSON, but it's not really readable for us right now. You can see now we're actually getting the tweet text though. Text is one of the best videos to ever exist for entrepreneurs, creators. I think about it often. So what we're going to need to do now is we're going to have all these tweets in this kind of format, and we need to break them down into something that's actually usable for us and is going to be readable in a format that's valuable for us. And that's why the end result of this workflow is a Google Sheet that has everything broken down into its component pieces rather than this whole wall of text that's not very useful. So this get Twitter data node is going to result in the exact same response format as what we're seeing right here. So what this AI agent now does is it's going to take that text format, right? So here I have broken down, I have all the tweets from this person. Let's execute this. And we're not going to actually go in there and see the responses, but we'll see the output in the AI agent when it gets sent there. So let's open up our AI agent and we'll see that we have all of these tweets right here. We have tweets 0, we have tweets 1, we have tweets 2, we have tweets, we have all of these tweets right here, right? And we can see that inside of each tweet, we have all this stuff, and here it is, the full text. This is the actual piece of data that we are going to want, right? So now we go in here, and I'm going to tell the agent exactly what I want here. And I'm going to send it all the tweets, and I'm going to tell it, hey, return only the JSON sorted by allocation 100, and we'll get to what that is. But here is the actual message that I'm going to feed it every single time. And this is something that you can just use for yourself. You don't need to change this at all. It can be replicated on your n8n workflow just like it is on mine. I have a goal that I'm going to feed it. I have an output format that I'm going to feed it. I have a schema that I've described, and how I want it to output this. And then I'm going to feed it the actual full JSON output that we got, and it's going to be it's also going to give it all these tweets. So what happens then is, first I have this think node, so I wanted to think for a little longer, and that helps the AI's outputs quite a bit. And then I have this structured output parser, which is going to say I have all these templates. For each one, I have this template name, I have the hook rule, I have the body rule, I have this call to action rule. I have all these different things that I want inside the templates, right? And so when I call this, it's going to break down all of this JSON that I am feeding it, right? This is the raw JSON data that it's getting. And I am now asking it, please break this down into 5 to 6 different formats that can be repeated every single time. Okay, so we called the agent. It went to the OpenAI chat model first. What we asked it to do was give us those 5 to 6 different formats and break it down into those component parts that we defined in those templates here in the structured output parser, right? So we said each template, we have an array of templates. It should have the template name, it should have the hook rule, body rule, call to action rule, style tags, character limit, example content, and let's say we have 100 tweets. What is the allocation for this format out of 100? So if we go through here, this is our output. We have templates. This is number 0. We have template name, contrarian take thread. Start with a clear, provocative contrarian statement. Support the contrarian idea with some points. Ask agree or disagree. Style tags, character limit, and then here's the example. And if we have 100 tweets, we have 25 that should be in this format. Same thing for the next one. Advice and anecdote, hot take prompt, swipe file, resource drop, and mini lesson with visual, and then it did one more, string of wisdom. Okay, and these are all one-liners. So here we see how it's giving us not only the actual format name, but it's going to break it down into a hook rule, a body rule, call to action, style, character limit, example, and how many out of 100 we should actually allocate to this style. Now, we get all of that, right? But if you just hand somebody this type of format, it's not that helpful still. So what we're going to do is we're going to add one more node, which is called the split out node. And what I want it to do is just output templates. So I want to split it by these templates here. So each one will then become its own object, and its own object with these fields. So very simple. Execute this step, and then we're going to get everything in a really clean table format. So right here, we have everything essentially ready for what we can then drop into our Excel sheet or our Google sheet right here. So our Google sheet, again, it's going to take in everything that we just sent from the split out node, and it's going to, connect to our Google Sheets account. If you don't know how to set this up, this is a really simple credential setup. You create a new credential, OAuth 2, and you just sign in with Google. Very simple. I'm already connected, so I don't need to do that. You choose append row from a list, and Twitter templates is the sheet that I'm using right here. Go to Twitter templates, sheet 1, map them all manually. You can do map automatically, but sometimes it does break stuff, so it's a lot easier to do it this way. And then for each column right here, for the template name, for the hook rule, body rule, call to action rule, style tags, each one of these you can just map how you want it to be saved. So you can really easily just drag them all over here. I've already done this, and so you really won't need to do anything except connect your own Google Sheet and make sure that each of the headers are named the exact same way. So let's execute this step right here. We can see that we have 7 rows so far. Once this is done executing, we should have 12 rows or something like that. Let's go through. All right, cool. We have 12 rows. It goes to row 13. Obviously, this is the header row, so we have 12 rows now. These are Greg Eisenberg's formats: contrarian take thread, advice and anecdote, hot take prompt, swipe file, mini lesson, string of wisdom. So this is now exactly the format that I can use for any new concept that I have. Let's say I do some writing or I create a YouTube video or any of this kind of stuff. I can take that transcript, I can feed it to GPT or I can feed it to whatever model I want, and I can say, hey, based on this transcript, can you come up with 20 tweets for me that map to one of these formats? And if you really want to go all the way, you can say, take this 1 hour transcript that I have, craft 100 tweets, make each one follow the allocation amount that I've set here, and map it to one of these formats with this kind of hook rule, this kind of body rule, call to action rule, this kind of style, make it under this character limit with this, mapping to this example content, and out of those 100, make sure only 25 of this format. So that is how you can use this for your own content. What this whole kind of table is called a context profile. So it's going to take this person's entire account and essentially give you and eventually the LLM some context around what this person's average viewer looks like, what the style of their content is, and a way for you to map it for yourself. So I hope you found this helpful. Go ahead and download this for yourself and use it for yourself. And let me know if you have any questions in the comments. And I'll be back for the next video.